Good evening and welcome to the monthly board meeting of the Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees. Please stand and join us for a moment of silence and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. Thank you. Trustees present, starting on your left and my right, are Trustee Audrey Pinkerton, Trustee Lou Blackburn, Trustee Joyce Foreman, Trustee Dan Mitchkay, Trustee Justin Henry, Trustee Miguel Solis, Trustee Jaime Resendez. Trustee Justin Marshall will participate in the board meeting via video conference from the Breakers Hotel, 1 South County Road, Palm Beach, Florida, 33480. We're joined by our Superintendent of Schools, Michael Hinojosa, and I am Edwin Flores, Board President. Trustee Resendez, you'd like to do the honors?
Si hay alguien que necesita los servicios de un intérprete, por favor levanten la mano y les pueden ayudar aquí a la mano izquierda mía.
Thank you. Trustees, at this time, I would like to recognize any elected or public officials. I do know that Councilmember Philip Kingston is here. Trustees, do you see any other current or former elected officials that we may recognize? Oh, Mavis Knight. Somebody tells me, and Harriet Earhart, Dr. Harriet Earhart, former Dallas ISD trustee. Are we missing?
Mavis Knight.
I did mention Mavis Knight, former member of the Board of Education. Anybody else? We thank you all for being here. Trustees, there are no recognitions tonight. We have a gaggle of really expensive lawyers here tonight to visit with us about a closed session item. If there are no objections, I'd like to move the closed session item forward so that we may meet with them and ask them to move forward. Trustees, we have an objection. Trustees, if there's an objection, then we have a vote. Trustees, we have an objection. Do we want to just go ahead with the speakers? Okay, we will move ahead with the speakers. Trustees, our agenda now calls for the public forum and segment of our meeting. We'll begin with the speakers to agenda items, followed by speakers to non-agenda items. To ensure that this meeting is held in an orderly manner, I am asking all speakers to please refrain from using individual names and to address the board and not individual trustees. Ms. Gully, will you call the names of the speakers?
Yes. Speakers, you will have 3 minutes to speak. When you arrive at the microphone, please state your name and address. Our first speaker is Marvin Delaney, followed by Robert Edison. Robert Edison, followed by Vicki Meek.
Yes, my name is Robert Edison. I reside at 315 North Murdo Lane. And I'm here also to talk about the African American history course. In 1933, John Leslie Patton and H.I. Holland wrote the first curriculum of African American history for the state of Texas. That curriculum was adopted by the state. In 1939, Booker T. Washington High School became the first school in Texas to offer a course in African American history. That Negro history course later became Black Studies. What I'd like to do is just go over what they stated when they wrote the course, and I'm going to use the terminology of the 1930s. The course in Negro history was intended to serve the following purpose: to give Negro youth a better understanding of the struggles and problems which the Negro race has encountered in America, to give a greater appreciation of the progress and contributions which the Negro has achieved, to show that the Negro has formed an integral part of the American civilization, to awaken a proper social consciousness and pride in the developments and the achievements of African Americans. Those issues are still true today. In 1985, in an effort to reduce the number of course offerings, African American history was dropped, and an ethnic studies course, American Cultural Studies, was created. That course was eventually dropped as well, and now you have advanced studies and special topics courses. But it's very difficult to offer a course that does not exist. Does not exist on the state level. There's no course number for it. Does not exist on the local level. There's no course number for it. The only way that we can rectify this and make it easy for schools to offer these courses that are in demand by students of all ethnic groups is to make sure that that course is listed as a state-approved course and a district-approved course. And it starts here. We must get it approved first on this level before we go to the state and fight to have it approved on that level. I'm representing the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, and our founder, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, said that in reality, there's no such thing as Negro history. Negro history is a missing part of American history, and no one can truly know American history without knowing the contributions and achievements of African people in this country. One final point. This year marks the 400th commemoration of 1619, when the first group of Africans were brought to the New World, to the English colonies. And for our students to really have an appreciation of that event, we need to have a course for them to study. Thank you.
Vicki Meek, followed by David King.
Hi, I'm Vicki Meek, and I live at 705 Lowell Street, Dallas. In my former life as manager of the South Dallas Cultural Center, I designed an education program that taught students K-12 African American history with the arts as the vehicle for exploring that history. I was blessed to have grown up in a household where my history and culture were on full display via the books in my parents' libraries and the art on the walls. I was raised by what back in the day were called race people, the definition being people who were fiercely proud of their African heritage. They had to self-educate, however, on the topic because no such area of study existed prior to the 1960s. They made sure that me and my siblings were firmly grounded in our history, and that grounding allowed me to imagine myself as an artist in 1958, when no black women artists appeared in my school textbooks. I know we've all heard the saying that knowledge is power. Well, I'd like to extend that to say knowledge is empowering, because I've watched for a couple of decades South Dallas Cultural Center students who've gained a stronger sense of self that translated into a desire for excellence in all that they endeavored. When children have a sense of pride in their culture, they rarely need outside motivation to succeed in their academic lives or later as they go out in the world as adults. I urge you to adopt this, to approve this application for the African American Studies curriculum as a positive first step towards acknowledging that the history and culture of all DISD students has equal importance. I'd like to end with a proverb from the Yoruba people that says, "A man in touch with his origins is a man who never dies."
David King, followed by Okwete Tahimba.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent. My name is David King, address 2318 East Keys Boulevard. I would just like to speak to the issue of the addition of African American studies from the perspective of a student. I still remember being a student. And for me, I very much remember the emotional impact that going through the process of reviewing history, learning history in school without seeing evidence of myself, my family, or my own history had on me. Case in point, as a process of finding out about myself, my own history, I had to detour away from the educational process, the formal educational process that I was involved in, instead of being able to embrace it. Because I could not find the truth I was looking for there. I had to search elsewhere for the truth. I think that we owe it to our children to ensure that in their search for the truth, they can embrace the formal educational process that they're going through. But in order to do that, that formal educational process has to recognize them, their place, and the place of their forebears. That's why it's critical to make sure that African American studies is included, not just for African American students, but for everybody. Because, just in accordance with the wisdom that we've already heard, African American history is American history. African history is world history. And we do ourselves a disservice when we do not embrace the entirety of the history that makes up the human fabric. So I encourage the board, firstly, I commend you in making sure that this was an agenda item in the first place. I encourage you to vote for it and to ensure that this extremely important process is included in the curriculum for all our children.
Okwete Tahimba, followed by Lucy Houston.
Good evening. I'm Okwete Tahimba, and I'm a citizen of District 3. And I am also the owner of the Pan-African Connection Bookstore, Art Gallery, and Resource Center here in Dallas, where we think history is the basis for all things, history and culture. I mean, we realize that all people have a history and have a culture that they can be proud of, but a lot of people don't know that history and culture. So we are encouraging you to adopt this African American curriculum because we feel it can change a child's life. It can give them confidence where they may not have any. It can have them appreciate other cultures. And overall, it will help them want humanity to come together as a whole. So, thank you.
Lucy Houston, followed by Harry Robertson, Jr.
Good evening, I'm Lucy Houston, 8324 Baumgarten Drive, Dallas, Texas. I'm coming to you as an educator, a doctoral candidate at Texas A&M University, talk to you a little bit about the theories and philosophies behind adopting this curriculum from an educational perspective. I'm also a retired teacher. I taught at Frazier during its heyday, from ground zero until almost the school was closed. So, the Pan-African Connection, Resource Center and Art Gallery, Okwete Tahimba just spoke to you. The community and affiliates support the Racial Equity Office request to approve the innovative course application for an African American Studies course during the 2019-2020 school year. As an institution that has provided the community with access to authentic African American literature, lectures, art, and artifacts for educators, parents, and community leaders, we understand the value of an African American Studies course. Research by Albert Bandura, Stanford University, has informed us that self-efficacy develops through vicarious learning or observing the success of others like yourself. Studies on learned helplessness by Brown and others have revealed that the failure of others like oneself has an adverse impact on self-efficacy. Cameron McCarthy has urged institutions to move beyond multiculturalism that merely develops cultural understanding by engaging students in activities that simply identify characteristics of different cultural groups. We should embrace cultural competence that builds bridges between home and school. Finally, McCarthy would have school districts to implement multicultural curriculum that is emancipatory, one that links the issue of minority underachieving in the classroom to the attitudinal prejudice of teachers and the suppression of minority culture in the school curriculum, unquote. Latson Billings' study of successful teachers of African American children found that children are more engaged and successful when cultural reference are used to teach the standards. E.D. Hurst and others would have us to believe that cultural pluralism is divisive. However, an African American Studies course would provide the counter-indoctrination that has resulted from centuries of misrepresentation and underrepresentation of African Americans in the curriculum. Pinar and Castanel, curriculum theorists, have pointed out that, quote, just as African Americans have been denied their civil rights and social society generally...
Thank you, Ms. Houston. Your time has expired. Harry Robinson Jr., followed by Rena Honey.
My name is Harry Robinson Jr. I live at 2424 South Boulevard, 75215. I'm president and CEO of the African American Museum. For the last couple of minutes, I have sat struggling, trying to write something to say. Dr. Delaney and Robert Edison stole my notes and said just about everything I was going to say. However, I would like to tell you that I'm encouraged and I'm inspired that you are considering, and I hope will include this course in the curriculum, which will be a step in the right direction of finally making African American history whole, because the African American experience is indeed an integral part of the American story. How can we truly say we're teaching American history when the struggles, achievement, and triumph of this population is not recognized for its contribution to the building of this country? The African American Museum is a custodian of this legacy, and we stand ready to partner with the Dallas Independent School District to provide resources and experiences that will complement the formal instruction in the classroom. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Rena Honey.
Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
Good evening, President Flores, trustees, and Superintendent Hinojosa. I'm Rena Honey, President of Alliance AFT, Local 2260, 334 Center Street in Dallas. I too am speaking about the African American Studies program that's being proposed tonight, but in just a tiny bit different way than the previous speakers. The problem of race in America has been a divisive, negative issue for centuries. Frederick Douglass gave a speech in 1870 stating that America would not reach its full potential as a great nation until the race problem was resolved. Nearly 150 years later, we're still asking a question posed then: how do we resolve the issue of race in America? The newly formed Department of Racial Equity has brought forward a recommendation that will, in my opinion, put Dallas ISD on the path to answering Dr. Douglas's question. Offering a course in African American Studies where students can learn about the history and culture of their own families, their friends' families, and others is an offering that is definitely long overdue. Education leads to acceptance and tolerance. Ignorance only leads to fear and exclusion. There seems to be way too much fear and exclusion in our world today, and our educators experience it daily in the behaviors of students in our classrooms. Although this will be an elective course, those enrolling will hopefully begin to find and understand their own identities as well as those of their friends. It can open the door of communication with others that could, in turn, begin a beneficial dialogue on the issue of race. Thank you for developing the Racial Equity Department in Dallas ISD and to the team for bringing this course forward. This is the beginning of what I hope will become a required course, along with other ethnic studies courses that begins in the elementaries and continues through the high schools. Fred Douglass is quoted as saying, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." I believe that providing this course and other ethnic studies courses sets the district apart, or sets the district on a path of building strong-minded, well-adjusted, and children who will grow into strong-minded, well-adjusted, and accepting adults. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to share these thoughts with you this evening.
Mr. President, in accordance with Robert's Rule of Order, can I have a point of personal privilege?
Yes, Trustee.
Yeah, it won't be long. We're going to discuss this later, but if you spoke on this agenda item, could you please stand, if you don't mind? For those, there's a lot of people. First, I want to say I love this city. I love the city of Dallas. I love DISD. I think public schools are the foundation of our future. There's more people in this room than we've had in a long time in regards to school board meetings and briefings. This is probably even more than a TRE vote. But as we look around and who spoke on this agenda item, we have work to do, in my opinion. Racial equity is incredibly important, making sure that all of our kids are included, both in the academic achievement, both the opportunities that Ms. Foreman was talking about earlier, getting a tag school down in her district. So, you know, my heart is heavy because I'm so thankful that you all came to speak, and we've gotten emails about this as well. But there's also a bit of tension and disappointment that we don't have more folks. And if you look at the room, there's a commonality amongst the people that are standing, minus Mr. Honey and the AFT staff. But there's a very commonality among the people that came before our board to speak on this issue in a room full of citizens of Dallas, Texas. From my perspective, representing the district that I represent and the history that my community has, I would expect more folks to be as passionate as you all are about this issue of racial equity. I mean, this is a phenomenal deal, in my opinion. I'll talk about it later. But I have to sit in this room with so many people from so many parts of our city that are going to speak on another agenda item and challenge us why we aren't as passionate about this issue of racial equity. And I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to discuss it earlier, but the academics in our district, our Anglo students perform at the highest level. Our Latinos are next. Our English language learners are next. And at the bottom are our African American students. We should be more urgent around that idea. So thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the opportunity to interject. I wanted to make sure everyone in this room heard this before you leave and go your separate ways and we get late into the night. Thank you, Ms. O'Neill. We talked yesterday that you're speaking on this agenda item, and I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Trustee Henry, I completely agree with you, and I'm going to call you out of order. May we continue with the speakers?
Deneen Henderson.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Deneen Williams Henderson. I reside at 2106 Garden Crest Lane, Dallas, Texas. I am here to add to the conversation about the great things happening in our libraries on behalf of the Dallas Area School Librarians Organization. I currently serve as the Library Media Specialist at Roosevelt High School and H-Tech Collegiate Academy in my 8th year as a school librarian. I am passionate about connecting students to opportunities for knowledge and skill acquisition because of the immense positive impact when they succeed and the tragic consequences when they do not. I use the Library Media Center to reach young people in a unique manner. I will share some of the varied library learning activities that have taken place in the library this year to engage students and encourage teachers to embrace the efficacy of library programming. Librarians are naturally able to locate and match resources to deepen a student's understanding. I take it a step further with a Lunch and Learn speaker series whereby featured guests or organizations present relevant information to students while they eat lunch in the library. Participants can interact with speakers and leave with treats, including a curated bibliography of resources on the topic in our high school library collection, thus promoting the circulation of materials. Many teachers on campus have also supported the effort with extra credit for participants. Our last Lunch and Learn was held in observance of Veterans Day and highlighted the Navy. A Healthy Relationships Lunch and Learn is planned for the next month around Valentine's Day. The Roosevelt High School Library features a modest computer lab. Last month, we hosted 2 Hour of Code sessions to promote coding as a high-demand cyber economy STEM career open to all. Personally, as an Hour of Code early adopter, it thrills me to provide this introductory opportunity for students to learn computer science principles through everything from basic, unplugged to challenging online game design activities that are engaging. This week, we tested augmented reality apps, robotic cubes, and circuitry sets in hopes of launching makerspace activities soon. Over the years, Specialized Library Program has enriched my life. It is interesting to note that the first time I used a computer was in the Library Media Center at Bertie Alexander Elementary School here in Dallas ISD. That initial encounter ignited a passion that sustained me through the computer science cluster at Skyline High School, my university studies, and numerous other educational and professional endeavors since then to my present career in service to young people. Special thanks to the Roosevelt High School administration team for their enthusiastic support. Thank you for your attention and ensuring the positive impact of libraries in our district every day, and happy School Board Recognition Month.
R. Jean Jackson is not speaking, and E. Lana Malone is not speaking. The next speaker is Lydia Wright, followed by Zechariah Manning.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Lydia Wright, and I live at 5347 Miller Avenue. I'm speaking about the long-range plan for Woodrow Wilson feeder pattern, why I choose Geneva Heights. Gemstones. They lay hidden in rocks, under rivers, down in deep caves. Covered by sediment, mud, darkness, their beauty is not recognizable at first, even though it's there. It takes discovery and hard work to release the gemstone and then clean it up so its rarity and beauty are seen by all. Geneva Heights is a gem. This school has been long overlooked by our feeder pattern, even though teachers and students were there working hard and finding success. Parents and staff were quieter about their school pride. Maybe they liked it being a secret. I'm not sure. But we now want it known that Geneva Heights has been discovered for the gem of a neighborhood elementary IB school that it is. This is why I choose Geneva Heights. My name is Lydia Wright, and I worked for DISD for 15 years as a special education teacher and school counselor. The majority of my career was at Lakewood Elementary. My work there gives me pride and firsthand experience with the way a school can build community, teachers can be dedicated, and great success can be achieved for students. I want that for my children and family. But my family made a choice after having our first child that I would leave my career at Lakewood and the opportunity for our children to attend there because we chose Geneva Heights for our elementary. I very much believe in Geneva Heights as a community rallies around our IB Choice Elementary School. I'm the president of our early childhood group, Pre-Geneva Association, which we began to build community, increase awareness about Geneva Heights for young families, and support the school with fundraising. We formed in 2016 with 31 families, and in 2018, we had 145 member families. We have helped fund field trips for 4 grade levels this year with our initial fundraising efforts, and just 2 weeks ago, we raised over $25,000 for Geneva Heights with an auction party, which 200 parents and community members attended. Pre-Geneva includes nearly 300 parents and 230 kids. These are families who are seeking out ways to be part of our neighborhood DISD school, voting for the TRE and the bond programs, paying attention, and ready to support Geneva Heights and our feeder pattern. We do not want to be turned into a 5-6 campus and lose the community momentum we have proven we can create for our DISD IB Choice Elementary School. Our feeder may need a 5-6 campus, but not at the cost of closing Geneva Heights Elementary. Our community needs assurance this won't happen. This is the only way to keep our support for Geneva Heights going with families enrolling and continued fundraising efforts for school. Our teachers and staff are also very invested in our school. They need to have stability or we risk losing them to other job opportunities. The longer this is in limbo, the more it hurts its progress. I believe in the current growth Geneva Heights has shown in test scores. in particular lower grade test scores and enrollment, growing by 100 students and 25% in 2 years. Our school needs to stay a diverse neighborhood elementary school because Geneva Heights is a gem for DISD that is only starting to be discovered and embraced. I choose Geneva Heights. And I hope you will check out your handout we gave you and enjoy your cookie. Thank you.
Zachariah Manning, followed by Diane Birdwell.
Board members, you should have a white or black binder in front of you. My name is Zachariah Manning. I'm a former Dallas ISD capital improvement construction manager. I was terminated from the district in December 2016 for reporting missions of taxpayer money, sequential purchases, and reporting of the districts denying minority and women-owned businesses the equal opportunity to participate in aspects of contracting and purchasing. Schemes were orchestrated by my former executive director, Willie Burroughs, and my former director, Sylvia Pena, and others to circumvent, mislead, and non-disclose information to this board. Once I started raising concerns, Burroughs and Pena began implying my work performance was not acceptable. I ultimately emailed Superintendent of Schools, Michael Hinojosa, about what was going on. Retaliation continued against me, and then I was terminated. I filed a grievance level 2 against Burroughs and Pena, and my grievance hearing officer was Willie Burroughs. DGBA regulations state a hearing officer who has a conflict of interest will disqualify himself or herself and be excused. Due to the manipulation of grievance level 2, an unfavorable grievance level 3 decision was made against me. Dallas ISD own investigator Andrea Whalen reported that I made legitimate complaints, and she believed I was terminated for said complaints in her undisclosed report. Whalen has been rehired or currently in settlement talks in order to silence her. I believe that outside counsel Kip Mendrago report concludes that I was correct as well. I urge the board to make both reports available. For the record, my concerns were emailed to Kip Mendrago back in 2017. Today, construction is going on at Hillcrest High School that includes demolition of various roof sections that I oversaw replacement of in 2016 that cost taxpayers $483,350 and just below the $500 amount required to come before this board. I am asking this board to reconsider my employment and or equitable solution concerning my previous employment. A quote from the TEA. Student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change. Board members, today is a new dawning of change. Let it start with you. Thank you.
Diane Birdwell, followed by Joanna Kabanek.
Hello, everybody. I'm Diane Birdwell, as you well know, 5705 Meadowick, just down the street. I'm back. In November, I spoke to you about how we have not heard about any changes in the ratios of students to counselors, to monitors, or reduction in class sizes. You know, what they went on strike for in LA. After 20 years in DISD, I guess I'm not surprised that what's important to campus personnel and for parents and teachers is not important to those in the big tower at 9400. I heard from only 3 of the 9 trustees about this, and once they heard about it down at 9400 that I was going to be interviewed by Channel 8, guess what? Somebody called my boss, the principal. That's a rookie mistake. Call me if you want. The 5 top staffers, including the superintendent of this district, know who I am. I've been around forever. I'm loud. You can find me easily. Just listen. They could have visited with me at the campus, or they could have called me in, but they instead went a different way. Dr. Tuckey never would have done that. Barbara Thomas never would have done that. Mr. Edison would never have done that. Ward English would never have done that. So if the budget comes through without changes to the ratios, It doesn't matter if your school is open or closed because we won't have enough security. We'll have too many kids for the counselors. It won't matter that we'll have a Black history class because no one will know to fill it because they need it for all the other teachers, for all the other classes. This is the issue at hand. Do we change the money? You ask about partnerships with Commit and SMU, and we'll get extra money. No, they'll get extra money. It won't go to the students. It'll go to the counselors. The consultants. We need money in the classroom, and I expect the budget to change. Or I will make sure that during city council, mayor races, and trustee races, I will make this an issue because you shouldn't be running for politics in Dallas if you're not going to take care of our students, whether you're running for trustee, for mayor, or for city council. I hope I've made myself quite clear on this. Thank you.
Joanna Catanach, followed by Millie Domenech.
Good evening, board members and trustees. I'm so happy to be in front of you today. My name is Joanna Catanach. I reside at 6108 Palo Pinto Avenue. In front of you, in addition to your cookie, is a fact sheet about my school, Geneva Heights Elementary. This week is an interesting week. This is called School Choice Week, and a lot of people have been hooping and hollering in front of the Capitol in Austin with little yellow scarves talking about the importance of charter schools, but I wanted to talk about the importance of choice. I choose a neighborhood elementary school in East Dallas called Geneva Heights. I choose this for a lot of different reasons. I choose to move my family here. I choose this school because my son's first grade teacher has 30 years of experience in DISD. I choose this school for the reasons that you see in front of you. $100,000 was donated by people from Project Refresh to help supply our science lab. $43,000 has been supplied by the East Dallas Exchange Club. $25,000, as you have heard, has been supplied by Pre-Geneva as well. But a fact that you don't hear or see on that piece of paper is the amount of money that I've had to spend as the mother of a student who has special education needs. $2,500 is the amount of money I had to spend for additional testing because my son has autism. If we want to talk about equity, it's not just racial equity. It is equity for students like mine who have special education needs. My son, every year, sits through an ARD meeting. That's what I have to do as a parent. I don't get to make cookies for my son. I've had to sit through ARD meetings since he was 4. He is 7 now. This is what I do as a parent because I invest in my son's school and because I have found a school and a principal and a Pre-Geneva association and parents who I can say, this is what I'm dealing with. How do I do this? What can we do together? You know, we do have a gem at Geneva Heights Elementary. It is the product of DISD success. You have a school people want to go to. You have a neighborhood people want to move to. We have a school that has 60% minority population. As a family who is a minority, I have 2 choices: to move to Lakewood, where there is almost no minority population, or to go to an overcrowded school at Mockingbird. My son, because he has special education services, benefits from a classroom that has only 16 students. Most importantly, he benefits from what's going to happen this Saturday, a birthday party. And for the first time, he's making friends. For a student like mine that gets pulled out for special education services, who gets tutoring twice a week by his teacher who stays late for that, this is a gem because no charter school will accept him. No private school will accept him. So I'm asking you to eat that cookie and remember, Geneva Heights is a gem. Thanks so much.
Millie Domenech, followed by Courtney McAllister.
Good evening. My name is Millie Domenech, and I reside at 5750 East University Boulevard here in Dallas. I'm here to talk to you about the long-range facilities plan for our school, Geneva Heights Elementary IB World School, where my first grader is in the dual language curriculum program. I'm asking that you take off of the table any option that would eliminate Geneva Heights as a neighborhood elementary school. Instead of trying to change Geneva Heights, we believe that DISD should be looking at our school and talking to our staff and talking to the parents to determine how DISD can replicate what we're doing in our school to other neighborhood schools. Our enrollment has increased by almost 100 students in 2 years at a time where enrollment is decreasing in most other DISD elementary schools. We have a dual language curriculum and an IB curriculum that is very popular and attracts families and students from all over the district. We have students from Mockingbird Zone. We have students from Lakewood, other areas of the district. We have students coming in from private schools. In fact, 31% of our incoming students come from outside of DISD, which is higher than all of the other elementary schools in our feeder pattern. In 2018, 100% of our fifth graders met standards in math and 89% in reading, which represents a double-digit increase over the previous year. In 2018, we logged over 2,500 volunteer hours, which is pretty amazing when you consider how relatively small our school is. People who live in the neighborhood routinely every month come into the school asking to volunteer because they want to volunteer at their neighborhood school. Over the course of the last couple of years, our daily attendance has increased, the number of requests for tours has increased, and our library circulation numbers are higher than some elementary schools with a couple of hundred more students than we have. So our children love to read. We have a great librarian in Ms. Brown. Our school is diverse both in terms of social economic status and in terms of race and ethnicity. And this has been grown organically, whereas DISD has been trying to do this through choice schools. We've done it organically at our school. The staff at Geneva Heights and the district have spent a great deal of money and time to get our IB certification. It takes a minimum of 3 years to be certified. And I don't think that a lot of people in the administration recognize how much time and how much money was spent on getting the certification and how much time and money was spent on getting our teachers trained. In closing, I respectfully request that rather than waiting several months and keeping everybody in the community in limbo about the status of our school, we ask that you immediately remove from consideration any option in this long-range plan that would eliminate Geneva Heights as that would close it as a neighborhood school. We want to keep Geneva Heights neighborhood elementary school. Thank you.
Courtney McAllister, followed by Steve Swanson.
Hi, I'm Courtney McAllister. I reside at 5914 Monticello Avenue. I have a 3- and 5-year-old that will be Geneva Heights Cougars. My family and I moved to Dallas last February from Bentonville, Arkansas, where we had highly overfunded, 10 out of 10 ranked wonderful public school systems. So one would think that we would look for the same type of school here. In fact, when we decided upon the East Dallas area, our realtor dissuaded us from a home in Geneva Heights because of the outsider reputation. But let me tell you, Geneva is a gem, and it isn't what it seems on paper. This is a community that builds from the bottom up. Let me illustrate how that differs from schools that simply fundraise and build from the top down. Geneva is welcoming to everyone in its community, not just the select elite. This is evident in the small grassroots activities, events, playdates, and programs that Pre-Geneva has organized and built directly. We have monthly Mom's Night Out and quarterly Dad Night Out events where parents have opportunities to connect and build relationships. Did you know that Geneva Heights is home to 30-plus children who live in a neighboring transitional housing program? Pre-Geneva was instrumental in setting up the Woodrow Peace Pantry on campus. These children and others who are food insecure take home backpacks filled with food every Friday. What pre-elementary group do you know of is this involved in community development, fundraising, and taking care of other children in the community? I will point out that these highly motivated pre-Geneva families will be the ones affected by a school shutdown or merger. I visited 8 different elementary schools when we first moved to Dallas to find the best fit for our family. Ironically, the school that was technically ranked the lowest is the only school that hit all of the items on my checklist. A neighborhood elementary school, socioeconomic and racial diversity, a dual language program that is accessible, small class sizes, project-based learning, strong parent community, strong respected leadership at the school level. Yes, Geneva doesn't have the highest test scores, but that is quickly changing. This neighborhood school will be a success story. With the community support that has rallied behind Geneva Heights within the last 2 to 3 years and the fact that we are now an IB World School, we are headed in the right direction. On a personal note, I do think that 5th and 6th grade school is a good option for the feeder pattern, but just not at the detriment of our gem in our neighborhood. I would ask the board to take a hard look at another property that could solve the overcrowding problems at Mockingbird, Lakewood, and Long. There has to be another property that would be better suited to serve the needs of these potential 1,000-plus 5th and 6th graders. Geneva Heights is my choice school, my neighborhood school, and my children's future. I choose Geneva, and I ask for your support to quickly bring forth a new plan where Geneva Heights remains a neighborhood elementary school. Please put our community's minds at ease and allow us to continue this high-velocity momentum that will surely fizzle out if our neighborhood elementary school is closed or even if it takes
Thank
too long
you,
to
Ms.
make a decision.
McAllister.
Thank you.
Steve Swanson, followed by Stephen King.
Good evening, Steve Swanson, 5000 Mission Oaks Boulevard, Austin, Texas. A grandparent, retired business executive, and 20-year volunteer in public education, including schools that have been rated IR. I've done research on Texas governance of education, and I've been a guest lecturer on governance management for university students studying to become a superintendent. And I've learned a lot. Please know we already have partners. Existing partners for students and taxpayers include the commissioner and the superintendent. The question is are they good partners? Unfortunately, they are not, because they have not fulfilled their responsibilities for administering education as provided for in Texas law and district policies, laws that have existed for decades. This is revealed by the existence of new policies for partnerships, the Department of Education investigating special education and awful school funding system, as well as TEI and ACE in the stories we've heard tonight. This is an opportunity for the superintendent to demonstrate responsibility. Stop the creation of new policies until existing policies are known and used. Report to the board and the public the lawful responsibilities of the Texas superintendent and commissioner of education for serving and saving, not harming children, for working together, partnering to effectively use community resources and serving the needs of children. And a report, and in this report, describe a plan to start fulfilling these responsibilities. For the superintendent, boards, and public's use, we are providing the Texas Administrative Code standards for a superintendent and portions of the Texas Education Code providing for the responsibilities of the commissioner, Texas Education Agency, and superintendents. And we look forward to your questions, and please don't hesitate to ask. And tonight I must add that one of the reasons I stand here, there's several, but one of them is the people of Kendleton, Texas, a little farm community in South Fort Bend County. It was closed. Their school district was closed, and I was invited by their superintendent to come visit with them. I met history of the African American. I met the people who were the descendants of those who in 1950 stood up for their right to vote, eventually went to and became a Supreme Court decision in their favor, and eventually ignited, helped ignite what we now refer to as the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Not only is African American history is important, I've learned to value being with people who know what that history felt like, and it's encouraged me.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Your time has expired. Stephen King, followed by Mavis Knight.
Hello, board, members of the board. My name is Stephen King, 1531 Georgia, 75216. For the first time, I'm up here not to gripe or bark at you, but to thank you guys, to thank you for the job that you've been doing. I've been with the school, parent of students for over 25 years, from No Child Left Behind in 2001 to School to Prison Pipeline in 2012. And I have seen the growth that you guys are doing. And I want to thank you, especially Blackburn. You're doing a wonderful job, and we just thank you at our window homes for the cows that you allowed us to have to help our children be as educated as other schools that might be more influential. We just thank all of you guys and ask you to keep up the good work. Thank you.
Mavis Knight, followed by Lori Kirkpatrick.
Mavis Knight, 6108 Redbird Court, Dallas, Texas, 75232. Thank you. This is a negative visceral reaction to the proposed local ELA policy under consideration. Please take these comments, and if you must move forward, refine the proposed policy. Reaction 1. ELA local reads like the district administrators have imposed a vote of no confidence on their ability to move this district forward. This is not true, as evidenced by your partnerships that currently exist and your innovative programs, as well as the evidence that you are narrowing the achievement gap, that you have a B rating from the Texas Education Agency. Believe in yourself and your leadership skills. Reaction 2. Has the district's local control policy changed? On the surface, it looks like you are relinquishing your authority to propose private entities and the Texas Education Agency. Look carefully at the authority granted to the Commissioner of Education under Senate Bill 1882. Carefully review the authority given to the proposed private entities who will manage the campuses and or programs. Take another look at their independent governance structure. Protect the districts, especially the students and the parents, in your performance contract. Reaction 3. This proposed policy reads like creating districts within a district. Is this the beginning of dissembling the Dallas Independent School District? What is the target number of privately operated districts? Take a lesson from the charter school movement. It began as a pilot program, and before the research was in that documented the effectiveness of the charters, those charters expanded, and now we have a proliferation of charter schools. Get your predetermined targets ready for the number of proposed partnerships. Proactively identify the number of privately operated campuses and our programs so that you won't let the number of campuses multiply out of control. Funding. Minimize your dependence on iffy state.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. Your time has expired. Lori Kirkpatrick, followed by Melissa Kingston.
Good evening, Lori Kirkpatrick. I reside at 6705 Brayburn in Dallas, Texas, 75214. Good evening, Superintendent, President, and board members. I'm speaking about the proposed charter partnership. As stated on the Texas Association of School Boards website regarding local school boards, this crucial responsibility and the closeness of trustees to the voters make the local school board the purest example of democracy our society presents. Creating a private partnership strips our community of the most basic of democratic tenets and instead creates taxation without representation. You were elected to represent us, the taxpayers of this community, and the students of Dallas ISD, not to hand over control to a private entity. It is irrelevant that any of these charter partner organizations would have the best intentions, are nonprofit, or that they're not a charter school. They weren't elected by this community. Furthermore, in talking about equity tonight, this policy would exacerbate inequity, with a portion of our district having direct electoral control over their school board and a portion that would not. In my opinion, a vote for this charter partnership policy is a dereliction of duty, and I'm asking that you rid your minds of this proposed charter partnership. Thank you for your service.
Melissa Kingston, followed by the Honorable Philip Kingston.
Good
Good evening. My name is Melissa Kingston. I live at 5901 Palo Pinto Avenue. I am a board member of the Woodrow Wilson High School Community Foundation nonprofit that serves the Woodrow feeder pattern. I'm a community leader. I'm a lawyer here in Dallas, and I'm an alumni from Leadership it was Leadership DISD back then. I'm here primarily to, one, echo the last two speakers' opposition to the charter program. I absolutely, and you all heard from me earlier this week, oppose that. And I'm also here to stand up for my local elementary school, Geneva Heights. I've lived in that neighborhood for 20 years. And I remember when that was the place family after family moved out of because of the schools. It is now the place people move into because of our schools, and it starts with Geneva Heights. And I have seen a plethora of community support for this elementary school. I want to thank our trustee for his commitment to help us preserve the historic structure of the building, but it goes beyond that. It is preserving this school as a neighborhood elementary school, and to remove that elementary school not only costs Geneva Heights, but it costs Long, which is the middle school for the entire feeder pattern, because what they're talking about doing is taking the kids out of Mockingbird, which is a strong school, and creating some sort of K through 8 program, which would take those children out of Long. And Long needs those kids just like our community needs our elementary school. I've seen, and let me just say that the elementary school not only has the support of the parents and the would-be parents, it has a tremendous amount of support from the community. The Lower Greenville Collective, which is the business association on Lower Greenville, has time and again donated and allowed us to hold events for the school. The Granada Theater hosted the big fundraiser that the pre-league group just had. So we have a lot of business support. The neighborhood associations are fully behind this school. We've funded technology in the classroom. We've helped fund infrastructure. Our neighborhood this last year, 400 homes, raised $7,500 to do outdoor classroom improvements. So this school has the kind of support every school in DISD would love to have, and the very last thing you ought to be doing is thinking about destroying that. Thank you.
The Honorable Philip Kingston, followed by Claudia Fowler.
Hey, y'all. I'm Philip Kingston, 5901 Palo Pinto. I'm here to talk about the Charter Partnership Program, which I'm pleased is not an agenda item. But I first have to say, ditto Ms. Knight, ditto Ms. Meek, ditto Melissa Kingston, of course, ditto Joanna Katnack. I'm here to start with, let me tell you how proud I am of you. There is enormous improvement in DISD, and I think that you've been rightly recognized for it in some circles and not recognized enough for it in other circles. Trustee Solis and I were speaking to a group of realtors just on Tuesday morning. We do have a little dog and pony show. I explain how we're improving the housing policy and the infrastructure policy of the city of Dallas, and he explains how you all have improved the student outcomes in DISD in a very real way, because realtors, as we've heard, need to know this information. I know that this job is really hard, and I really respect the work you do. Putting on my District 2 voter hat just for a second, if you guys ever discuss compensation for board members, you have a vote right here. Please think about that. I'm here to chide you, I hope very gently, for an idea that I think was at best half-baked. The Charter Partnership Program is not designed to improve on the very real gains that DISD has made, that you all used as marketing to sell to the community the idea of a TRE. You raised our taxes on the representation that you guys were really good at this and getting results. And you are good at this and you are getting results. So why would you give that away to private partners who have no proof that they can handle any of these jobs? As an example, I'm a board member of Downtown Dallas Incorporated. It operates the public improvement district in downtown, and it does a wonderful job. But it is actually against the charter of the organization for it to manage a school. So our CEO had a little minor heart attack when she saw DDI listed as a potential public partner for DISD to operate a school. That was quite shocking to her. So here's what I mean to tell you. You guys are doing such a good job with student outcomes, but lately, with regard to financial decisions, I see you like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football. The legislature doesn't return funding to pre-2008 levels, and you raise taxes. Okay, well, that's good, except now you all are a piñata down in Austin with the governor talking about capping my ability to raise taxes. You all see this Senate bill that offers $1,800 a kid, but it's $1,800 to private partners because the legislature doesn't want public employees.
Thank you, Mr. Kingston. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Claudia Fowler, followed by Isaac Steen. Claudia Fowler, Isaac Steen, followed by Seychelle Engelhardt.
Hi, my name is Isaac Steen, and I live at 4810 Haywood Parkway, Dallas, Texas, 75232. I want to echo what's been said in the room about partnering with private entities, charter schools. I live in Oak Cliff. We have an over-proliferation of charter schools. We have a charter school on just about every major intersection. We got one on Keys in 35. We got one on Ann Arbor in 35. We got one on Camp Wisdom in 35. We just got through fighting where they want to put one on Wheatland in 35. Now, I give credit to Mr. Kingston over there. Went to a meeting. He was the only one that had enough nerve to stand up and say that DISD is being undermined by the mayor and rich people in this city. They are trying to take our public schools and make them out of charter schools. Now, a question was asked earlier that offended me as being a black man, and I'm like James Brown. I say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. There's nothing against nobody else. But when somebody looks just like me tells me that more of us need to be fighting to preserve black history, I agree to that. But the problem is, you ask, why are we here not fighting for black history? Because we fighting for black existence. We trying to exist. We getting taxed out of our neighborhoods. We getting pushed out of our neighborhoods. We getting, the city is against us. All kind of little different policies to get rid of us. Now, Barack Obama, the president, say it's easier to get a gun in the black neighborhood than it is a book. Now, I'm not from some of these rich, predominant neighborhoods that some of y'all from. No offense. But I made the grocery store sometime in our neighborhood is Family Dollar. We don't have a Kroger, a Tom Thumbs, or a Walmart. Our kids are fighting to stay out of the penitentiary. They don't have accessibilities to computers and libraries and video games and such things. We have a hard time getting the police from our neighborhoods. So when this young brother asks why are we not fighting to preserve black history, we making black history. That's what we doing because we have a problem. I'm a product of Carter High School, one of the best high schools in Dallas. They made them, no other school in Dallas got Saturday night lights and things of that nature based on Carter High School. And for somebody in the city council to say Carter High School is a failing high school just to put a charter school down the street and told the biggest lie ever told in Dallas, I rest my case.
Seychelle Engelhardt, followed by Lynn Davenport.
Good evening, Superintendent, President, and Board Trustees. My name is Seychelle Engelhardt. I reside at 907 Leatrice Drive in Oak Cliff, and we actually own 4 other properties in DISD territory. I have two non-agenda items I'm speaking to since one of them got pulled, so I will work to be concise for you. The first one is regards to Rosemont, which is our neighborhood elementary school. In 2015, we voted on a bond package that was said to give $35 million to Rosemont Elementary. To date, we've received $0 to Rosemont Elementary. Now, as an owner of 4 properties, you can imagine that I have not just one property tax going to that, but 4. I also own a real estate company here in Dallas-Fort Worth. We employ 16 people, and we have 250 homes that we sell a year. Now, when we look at Rosemont became a middle school in 2012, and we still have not received any dollars to accommodate those 6 through 8 students. We have no labs for science, no performance space, and I am a small person, but I can't sit on the chairs in the cafeteria. They're built for 3rd graders. So we have inadequate restrooms. The restrooms, I can actually almost see over the stall to the next person. So imagine what a 6th through 8th grader feels like when they're trying to have privacy going to the bathroom. Now, when we take a look at that, as the district develops more pre-K through 8 schools, Rosemont's being left behind. Rosemont, that has been a pre-K through 8 school for 7 years without support, deserves the dollars that it needs to not only bring the school up to par, but to make an example of what we can be for other pre-K through 8 schools. Now, in addition to that, I also want to call your attention to our neighborhood school that is our choice school. I was born in Dallas, I grew up in Dallas, and we moved back into DISD and into Rosemont territory because we chose that school. And my family, my in-laws, who I love dearly, grew up in Holland, Michigan. Now, I don't know if you know much about Holland, Michigan, but I'm going to share some facts with you because this is actually where the charter partnership policy started for the United States. So let me give you a couple stats. My mother-in-law is a teacher, was a teacher in English and ESL. We still currently have 4 good friends and family members that teach in the Holland, Michigan school system. So let's take a look at that. When it started, the white population declined 60% after that charter partnership started, and now it is 2 times more poor than it was when this charter partnership started. Now, 2 times the school poverty rate when Michigan School began. The school choice enabled Holland's children to choose their schools, which is great. And in Michigan, you also then have the money follow the child. Well, if you have migrant workers coming in to pick fruit, and 1 in 3 students are no longer...
Thank you, Ms. Engelhardt. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Lynn Davenport, followed by Andrew Kirk.
Good evening, Superintendent and Trustees. My name is Lynn Davenport. I live at 9627 Windy Hill Road in Dallas. I am here to speak on a non-agenda item for the proposed policy that was taken off. My kids are in Richardson ISD, but I'm here because what happens here affects my district because of the partnership we have with Commit. And I've been tracking this Senate Bill 1882 for the last year or so, ever since former State Representative Linda Koop was pitching it across the state and promoting it. I saw the dangers of the bill, not just because of the charters, but because of the nonprofits and the foundations that could partner with our districts. I went to Waco ISD a year ago to warn them of the unintended consequences of partnering with non-educators and allowing them access to money and students. This is a pay-for-success scheme where investors could turn a profit on the outcomes. No one calls it that, but that's what this is. Look up social impact bonds. DISD has math innovation zones under Senate Bill 1318, allowing investors to make money on math scores. It's also a social impact bond. Marath hired a social impact bond director at the TEA. So when I saw the list of partners that you guys put out, I thought it was really suspicious because it looks like a possible pay-for-success setup. Many of them are pre-K providers. United Way is on there, Commit's on there. The founder of Commit is from Goldman Sachs. The first pre-K social impact bond in the United States was done by Goldman Sachs United Way, and this was in Utah. You can look up that too. RISD and DISD both have data sharing agreements with Commit that could be used for these schemes, like the Goldman Sachs one done for pre-K in Utah. I'm telling you, there's going to be a tidal wave of social impact bonds coming. This is all written into ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act. This sets up little kids as investment vehicles for profit. Thank you. It's wrong, by the way.
Andrew Kirk, followed by Suzabelle Gosley.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Kirk. I'm at 3208 James Drive. I'm here to speak as a product of Dallas Public Schools and a current DISD teacher at Sunset High School. More specifically, I'm speaking to relay my concern regarding the partnership agreement proposed initially for this evening's meeting but pulled from the agenda. What worries me is the eventual creation of a school system with little public oversight and no democratic governance, and an education that sells our most vulnerable students short in the process. Public schools are some of the last remaining connective tissue for communities, particularly in a city like Dallas, where neighborhoods and especially schools are increasingly segregated by race and class. SB 1882 severs public schools from community input and democratic governance. In other words, in the environment the law creates, the public and public schools will cease to be meaningful in any sense because the public will not control them but will pay for them. Parents and teachers will only be stakeholders in the most passive sense. This is particularly outrageous in light of our city's recent vote to raise our own property taxes to more equitably fund public schools. I do not believe the board has convincingly demonstrated these partnerships will lead to improved student outcomes. Similar arrangements have yielded mixed to negative results in other districts. Meanwhile, charter schools, who this law seems written to support, consistently underperform public schools, despite their ongoing per-pupil funding advantage. If this board is serious about improving public education, and I believe that it is, its members must reject any so-called partnership that removes their ability to represent constituents or exercise oversight powers. Trustees must not only reject these agreements, but lobby the state legislature to eventually repeal SB 1882, a law designed to further hobble public schools in our state. Particularly for those of you who hope to represent our city in other capacities, now is the time to make our society more democratic, not less. Thank you.
Suzabelle Gosley, followed by Ruth Torres.
I am Susie Bell Gosley, and I live at 9511 Faircrest Drive. Which parents are going to lose the democratic process if this decision is made for the partnership charters? I'm speaking against the DISD Board of Trustees charter partnership proposal. The decision to have the district stop teaching its own students and turn them over to other entities is a very important decision that deserves full and public coverage and discussion. One of the greatest American rights is for parents to elect their own school board member who will make decisions for their children's education in schools. Citizens actively participate in the decision-making process of the government when they vote and elect you to be their representative. If this school board approves the partnership charter, parents will have no say and no vote. For the people who serve on the charter boards, who will be making decisions about their children's education, the standards and operating procedures, about what their child learns and how they will be taught and disciplined. Private agendas could easily enter the decision-making process with no public oversight. The Oversight and Evaluation section of the ELA Local states that the district shall implement a comprehensive performance accountability and compliance monitoring system. But that's not the trustees or the parents. But parents and trustees can provide rigorous and evidence-based decisions. Parents need to be part of the checks and balances. The ELA legal document states that the trustees will get reports, but that is not the same as having a trustee walk into a school and be part of their oversight process, because they are accountable to their voters who are also parents. Why leave DISD trustees out of the system? Does the board want to become a system to manage contracts? This district has been improving. Why turn students over to other entities? If you're looking for money, then put pressure on the Texas legislature to increase their percent of funding education back to the original percent of 50% or more. Currently, they fund only 38%. Also, to update the state's cost of education index to determine the actual cost, which have not been updated in many, many years. Also, to not use SB 1882 to fund our schools. It creates inequities and pits schools against each other. Also, there could be unintended consequences for partnership charters. You know, the board actually gives up these schools and these students. Since supporters of partnership charters say everything is in the contract, how do you really get all the rights for parents and teachers in that contract? 3 people.
Thank you, Ms. Gosling. Your time has expired.
Charters. Thank you.
Ruth Torres, followed by Bernice Lopez.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Torres, 1180 North Masters Drive, Dallas, Texas, 75217. I am a parent and a candidate for Dallas City Council for District 5. And I want to quickly talk about one item that is on the agenda, the African American class, and just point out that there is clearly interest in this topic. The African American Museum just had an exhibit on President Jefferson's Monticello, where he owned over 600 slaves, including having children with Sally Hemings. And that exhibit had over 80,000 attendees, and a great proportion of them were students. So I would advocate for that there is an interest in African American studies with just that statistic. Now I want to talk about the charter partnership. I am so glad you guys pulled it from the consent agenda. However, as a parent, I'm very concerned. We just went through elections in November where we gave you everything you asked for. Okay? And as a parent, I know when you guys want to talk to us, you know how to do it. Okay? We'll have community meetings, we'll have it in PTSAs, we'll get robocalls, 3 of them, the same thing, okay, and emails. So we know you know how to communicate with us. But as a parent, I didn't hear anything about this. I saw it posted on social media. This weekend, on MLK weekend, just a few days, and this was on the consent agenda. That means, and maybe I'm wrong, I hear consent agenda to mean that nobody on this board had a problem with it. Okay, that's not true? Okay, great. Because when I hear consent agenda, see that, to me, that's all voted in at one time, and it could just sweep on in. So I apologize if I'm wrong. You can educate me on that. That's fine. Okay? But I am concerned that parental involvement was not engaged there. Okay? I expect DISD to be the expert in identifying what you need. And I understand the very challenging circumstances in regards to funding. That's the underfunding from state level. I get it. I expect that you're doing the best you can with the cards that you're dealt. But this game of privatizing our education is unacceptable. And I sent you guys on January 22nd, I stayed up late into the night to type out 21 points of concern from what you guys had posted. And I don't have time to read all of that, but I'll say that this application, and I gave you all the copies here, and I have some if anyone here in the room is interested, but the legal exposure, the application process, there's a lot there in terms of eligibility, the cost-benefit ratio, and the accountability with this privatization. So before this comes back out again, I really do hope that you put all
Thank you, Ms. Torres.
Thank you.
Bernice Lopez, followed by Bill Betson. Bernice Lopez. Bill Betson.
Bill Betson, 6717 Cliffwood, Dallas, Texas. I want to ditto so much of what's been said this evening. Our board meetings are getting better and better and better, and this was one of the best because the public is saying what they think. I hope you are listening. Regarding what was 702, that is now gone, regarding the need for our students to know their own cultures and study their cultures in school. That has to happen. And I want to suggest a way to accelerate that process and bring it home with no expense to the school district. When you accept an application from a parent for their child to enter pre-K, please ask that parent to include with their application a letter to their child about their dreams for their child. And then let that parent know that you're going to ask them for the next 3 years to do the same thing. And they will always get back the letter the next year, but you want them to see how their child is going to change every year. Dreams will change. And a record will slowly be formed that they will be able to give their child someday. But then in the 3rd grade, that process changes. And in the 3rd grade, it starts with their child writing them a letter and asking for 2 things in the letter. Please tell me your dreams for me, and please tell me a story from your history. And they write this letter to each parent, and we encourage them to write it to all their elderly relatives, all the relatives they're close to. Imagine the stories a grandparent can write. And once again, this becomes an annual process. In the 4th grade, they get back their 3rd grade letter. They can read it and rewrite it. And the parents can see what they wrote and rewrite it. And it goes on every year as a priceless record of family history is created. Parents and relatives are warned that you're going to be asked to do this every year, so think of the stories from your history that you want to put into writing for your grandchild, for your niece, for your nephew, for your great-grandchild. That is the best thing we can do to get our kids involved in their history, their own history, their family history. Then in the 8th grade and the 12th grade, there's one change. That year, everybody writes letters about dreams 10 years in the future, and the child writes their own letter to themselves about their plans for 10 years in the future, and it can stay in the school time capsule, a vault in the lobby. Anyhow, that cost y'all nothing.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Benson.
it'll be priceless. Thank you.
Arthur Fleming, followed by Robert D. Jones.
My name is Robert D. Jones, Sr. I live at... I live... I live at 1716 Chattanooga Place, Dallas, Texas, 75235. And y'all think that's funny, right? All right. Now, I'm going to get down to business. I found some more college work. Proliferation, now my stuff. Official oppression, institutionalized racism, institutionalized child abuse, then my friend gave me one. Systemically perpetuated failures. Now, with that, I would like to put out a nationwide search and have Michael Murat to be arrested and have Michael Murat to resign and all his friends, Todd Williams, commit and uplift, because we'd already been through all this before. Back in 2012. See, y'all wasn't here, but Dr. Flores was here. I always got to come down here and keep the rules. Now, they don't bump my little kid's head like my son. My he wasn't at none of the graduations, and my kids already graduated. But thanks to Dr. Blackburn, he was there to fill in. So everybody have all these feelings and rubbing you over the shoulders, and it's all about the money. So now I know how to follow the money, and I got about 25 years of my own investigation. I want to get anybody because I think I got what they need to put some more people in jail, along with Larry Duncan ain't gone to jail, but they got Caraway all up there looking crazy. See, but it ain't no fair deal, so I'll get back to the notes. About my information going out to Todd now. My name is Robert D. Jones Sr. I live with 1716 Chattanooga Place, and I'm tired of fighting him. I know he's a rich man, and so Lee, you need to quit listening to him, man, before you end up in jail, man. You can't come down here from Beaumont and say, man, okay, and the new guy, that H.S. Thompson, I commend you. I was over there too. So their school still need to be built over there. I was the last president over there, last PTA. See? And I know they did the burn their nut out and all that, but it kind of makes it like this because I can't kill nothing, man. See, and what it's all about now, it's about racism. I was born in 1964. So I'm
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Your time has expired.
Can I get some more time?
Suzabelle Sherman, followed by Dan Bridges. Mr. Fleming? Oh, okay. Arthur Fleming.
Good evening, everybody. How you doing? Arthur Fleming, NAACP Vice President and a current Executive Committee member. I want to speak to House Bill 1882. First of all, everybody's familiar with that commercial now where the little kid, Cascade commercial where the little girl, where the mom washes the dishes. She puts them in the puts them in the dishwasher, and the little girl say, well, what did the dishwasher do? Well, that's what we're asking. We're asking, what are these folks you're trying to bring into the district, what do they do? I read the law, and basically, it adds no value to the school system. There's no community input, and for what? For money. Like I said, this is a law. It's not the law. Now, what I want you guys to understand that your credibility is low within the community. Don't nobody trust y'all. The reason they don't trust you is because y'all do stuff like that. Go get a long list of folks, vendors, right? You got it all together. Then you come and then you say, well, the reason we did that was because we had to get it in on time. But for what? We're already improving as a district, so you're going to bring somebody in to wash the dishes that we've already washed, right? So what we're saying is stop experimenting on our children. We want transparency and accountability. That's what the community needs. And stop this backdoor home rule. Thank you.
Suzanne Sherman, followed by Jan Bridges.
Sherman was the one that marched through Georgia. I'm not Sherman, I'm Sheridan.
Mr. Sheridan.
Thank you.
No, it's Suzanne Sherman. Jan Bridges. Now Richard Sheridan.
To the members of the board and Superintendent Hinojosa. My name is Jan Bridges. I reside at 987 South Rustic Circle, Dallas, Texas. First off, I also want to commend you all for the job you are doing with the district. Down to only 4 our schools. I've gotten a B rating from the state of Texas. That's fabulous. So now I'm questioning what the justification is for partnering with charter schools. When you've got that kind of rating, you're doing a great job. I don't understand. Wanting to partner with organizations that have little experience, knowledge, background on education. even commit, they established themselves as a partnership with an initial $500,000 investment. Why would somebody invest $500,000? Well, ask yourself that. To get a return on investment, unless you're like Bill Gates or somebody like that. Goldman Sachs established a product, a financial product called social impact bonds. And so, you have an initial investment. These organizations fill a social need, and in many cases it is in the area of education. And then they try to meet that need through research, analysis, and so forth, testing on our kids to determine, what works, what produces higher level of performance, higher level of graduation rates, for instance. And they do that to justify their existence. Okay? That's what they do. They justify their existence because they've got to prove that they are having a social impact. And if they do that, then they get more government funding. And they use that government funding to pay their investors back. At a rate of return around 3%. So, y'all, this is really what this is about. It's really not. Now, I'm not saying that these organizations don't have good motive. I'm sure they think they're doing good at the same time they're making money, But it becomes a self-fulfilling, like a Ponzi scheme kind of a deal, where they're just making money. And also, a lot of these organizations do their own research. They do their own analytics, and it's not done by an independent.
Your time has expired,
researcher, so you can't trust it.
Richard Sheridan, followed by Frank Bravo.
Yes, good evening, Rich Sheridan, 4801 Live Oak Street, Dallas, Texas. Everything I'm going to say tonight is pretty much from the Advocate, Oak Cliff Advocate, February 28th, 2018. DSD, the movie, the plot, twist, the players, the money, the drama. Look past the news of the day and you'll find a story worthy of the big screen. It's an entertaining tragedy unless you're a taxpayer, parent, or child in the district's schools. To me, this article explains what is going on at DSD with the proposed privatization, the home rule, the push for charter schools, racism, and moneyed interests. For quotes, am I leaving out the names? The good guys, self-described reformers in the story, haven't always been good. The bad guys in the story, those not sold on reform, have some good reasons for being bad. Let's not forget the ever-present issue of race and discrimination always lurking in the background of every scene. We are the worst public enemy to the black. We are the quote. We are the worst public enemy to the black children in Dallas. District 9 ISD trustee Bernadette Nuttall asked rhetorically about a column written by a local journalist. That was hurtful. African American board members have always been willing to work across the table, but the problem is when we didn't do what you say to do, how you say to do it, we're the problem, Nuttall says. The African American DSD trustees are always the ones that have to do the olive branch, she says, and you want us to come and be like, yes, massa, I need to think whatever you say to think. That's Bernadette Nuttall. And, quote, we are working against the monolithic efforts to dismantle DSD under the guise of reform, and those leading these efforts have power and money and are doing so for their personal gain. Their work on a special interest agenda is hurting our children, particularly children who are the most vulnerable in our community. This read an email from Lori Kirkpatrick to her supporters on June 10, 2017, the day she faced another trustee in a runoff election. At a high level, I support education reform in the sense of working to make schools better, to better educate our children, to better prepare them to meet the workforce demands of the next century. The devil is in the details. What the parents are seeing is that many policies are not working well and not having the intended effect. Let's look at what's going on in our schools in terms of the loss of good teachers and good principals and begin to ask, why is this happening? A seated trustee. We've gone from a 54% white population to 36% 46% minority, to today's 5% whites, 92% minority, and 90% of our children are in poverty. Basically, the bottom line is, if we don't learn from history, we're going to repeat it. I will conclude with this, again, with 90% of the student minority, 90% of students in poverty. What do the rich white people, in this city know about educating the minorities? I would say...
Thank you, Mr. Sheridan.
It's money over...
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Frank Bravo, followed by George Renhel. Frank Bravo, George Renhel.
Good evening, President Flores, trustees, and Superintendent Hinojosa. My name is George Rangel, 334 Center Street, Dallas, Texas, 75208. I'm the Executive Vice President at Alliance AFT, and I thank you for this opportunity tonight. This past week, Alliance sat down with trustees Pinkerton and Marshall, and we want to thank each for discussing the complexities of ELA. While we know everyone's heart is in the right place, it is important to remember any additional monies come with strings. And many of these strings lead to questions that remain unanswered. The prospect of giving up control of our schools for up to 10 years should not be an issue taken lightly. We are thankful that the consent agenda item 8.01 regarding proposed policy ELA local was pulled from the agenda. In the meantime, we advise all stakeholders in DISD to pressure legislators to fix education funding and properly fund our schools without being required to give up our democratic control. On another note, administration sent an email out in August. Employees sent an email out in August offering employees bus driver positions. Many of these teachers applied and were hired. Those approved followed proper protocol, received overwhelming support from their campus administrators, and many principals were supportive for the simple fact that teachers picked up students that he or she taught and had a working relationship with them. An added plus was that the students arrived to school on time. Now these teachers have been verbally released from their bus duties, causing a great amount of angst and confusion. Alliance AFT is asking the district to reinstate these teachers to the bus driving positions they applied for and were hired for. When you offer the employees positions and then take them away at a whim, it's unprofessional, especially when you have dedicated employees already in the system that stood up and took the initiative to help when we were short, when we started out the year with 99 bus drivers short. We really need to consider the decisions that we make, and I hope that you consider reinstating these employees. Thank you.
Chris Daisy, followed by Sharon Ferruti. Sharon Ferruti.
Evening. My name is Chris Daisy. I live at 3311 Elm Street, Dallas, Texas, 75226. I teach U.S. History and AP U.S. History as well as coach the chess team at W.W. Samuel High School. I'm a DTR teacher and was the 2017-2018 Campus Teacher of the Year. I am speaking tonight on behalf of Alliance AFT in regard to the polled agenda item 8.02 concerning potential district partnerships with charter schools. Although the item is not on tonight's agenda, I would like to share my experiences so as to inform any future discussions or debates on this issue. I started my career as a member of Teach for America in New Orleans, Louisiana. As many of you know, after Hurricane Katrina, charter schools proliferated in New Orleans. I worked at one of these charter schools. In my third year of teaching, I worked at a charter school called Cohen College Prep. This charter school partnered with a traditional high school called Walter L. Cohen High School. These two schools were far from equals. While the charter Cohen College Prep gained access to the majority of the building and the lion's share of the resources, Walter L. Cohen was reduced to only a handful of classrooms and teachers and worked with significantly less resources than the charter Cohen College Prep, even though the two shared the same building. The only students remaining at Walter L. Cohen, the traditional high school, were students that no charter was willing to accept, students with severe disabilities or students with major behavioral infractions. Thus, the students with the highest needs were given the least resources. I share this experience because I fear that a similar pattern might unfold should our district seek to implement similar policies. We have an obligation to ensure that all students have access to a high-quality education, and potential partnerships with charter schools may, even inadvertently, threaten the success of this mission. In closing, I would like to take a moment to express my sincere thanks for allowing me the privilege and honor to speak before you tonight. Thank you.
Sharon Baruti, followed by Hobie Huckel. Hobie Huckel.
Good evening, trustees and Superintendent Hinojosa. My name is Hobie Huckel. I'm a school librarian at Samuel High School. I'm also a taxpayer at 8527 Brettshire, Dallas, Texas. I'm pleased to see that you pulled the agenda item 8.02 from tonight's meeting agenda. This policy is ill-conceived. It's based on Texas Education Code 11.174, which was crafted by enemies of public education, simply stated. It ignores the ravages of the last 30 years of systematic defunding of public schools and the parallel obsession with testing and punishing. In 1984, the state's contribution to public school district funding was over 50%. It dropped to 34% in 2017-2018. Over the same period, charters grew to siphon off $2.5 billion in state funding. Charters are not public schools. They are not publicly governed. They are not our friends. Need I remind you that 50% of secondary librarians were eliminated last year. According to Dr. Hinojosa, these and other cuts were directly caused by the proliferation of charter schools. Along with voucher schemes, charters are a means to wrest resources from democratically governed public schools until those resources are under private control. Post-Katrina New Orleans is a perfect example. Partnerships played a role there. Given this fundamental contradiction, I was dumbfounded when I discovered, but to my surprise, that this proposal to partner with charters was being considered. Talk about sleeping with the enemy. We already know that charters do not outperform public schools. Has the administration already given up on the unlucky victims of drill and kill, test and punish? What about the vaunted ACE program? How revealing that the privateers in Austin have no interest in anything that does not involve charters. Is this partnership proposal just a deliberate attempt to squeeze a few more years of life out of a few unlucky district schools? I hope so, because the other explanation implies world-class opportunism and cynicism. District policy was little protection for last year's layoff librarians. A charter partnership will be even worse. In closing, this is a bad deal from the worst of right-wing privateers in Austin and neo-libs here in Dallas. Don't do it. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Soraya Golub.
Good evening. Good evening. President Flores, good evening to the board. My name is Dr. Soraya Golub. I live at 4039 Crown Shore Drive in Dallas, Texas. I am a proud Dallas ISD parent. I'm also a community liaison for two of our elementary schools up in the W.T. White Peter Patton. When I read of this proposal, I was frankly horrified because I strongly believe that a robust public education system is the foundation of any civil society. The moment that we give up on the idea that every child has an equal right to a resilient and a flourishing and a full education is the moment that we give up on civil society itself. As you can all tell, I've got an accent. I come from New Zealand, where public education is the only way to go, where people who attend private schools are slightly suspect because they think they went there because they're religious nuts of some kind, because that's the only reason. When you have a robust public education system, the picture is completely different. My concern with the partnerships agreement as written is, although it looks like what it's trying to do is bring innovation into the district, as I talk to academics, other educators from other places, what I hear is that, oh, that was done first in Dallas ISD. We are an incredibly innovative and forward-thinking district who is working amazingly hard for our students, and it shows. Why would we go to partnerships, incur the price not only of a 10-year partnership agreement with no governance over our schools in order to get something that, frankly, we're already doing? This beggars belief. I'm a philosopher by training, and one of the things that I'm deeply interested is the idea of what we say by our actions. The partnership agreement looks innocuous, right? It's like, well, we're just getting a little extra money for these kids by signing on to this. But this has a symbolic value, this action. It has a symbolic value of endorsing the notion of a charter school, of endorsing the notion that a public district is not sufficient, that a public district requires outside partners for innovation. And frankly, that's just false. I think Dallas ISD is doing an amazing job, that we really are at the forefront, that this is showing in our scores. This price is far too high to pay for a few extra dollars. Again, these extra dollars won't even be going into the district's pocket. They will be the recipient of a small number of children who are able to sign on to the partner schools, which are, as we know, the kids who are the pick of the bunch. Charter schools don't accept all of our children. They do not value an inclusive and robust public education system. So in closing, I am so glad that you're not considering it tonight, but I would enormously and strongly urge you not to consider it at all. Thank you so much.
This concludes our speakers.
Thank you, Ms. Gully. The board will now retire to closed session. The public is welcome to wait in this room while the board is in closed session. The board will retire to closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551 concerning any and all purposes permitted by the Act, including but not limited to the following sections. 551.071 for private consultation with its attorney about pending or contemplated litigation or on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter, including discussion of District 4 vacancy, resignation votes, and election. It is now 8:14 p.m. and we are in closed session. I expect this will last at least an hour. Thank you. It is 9:22 and we're back in open session. The board took no action in closed session. Next item on the agenda are the superintendent's report, academic achievement, accolades, and events.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, I have three very quick items. One announcement. We're very pleased to announce that Alex Sanger Elementary School teacher Elisa Morrissey was named Elementary School Teacher of the Year for the entire district. And Nadira Shakir from Long Middle School has been named the Secondary Teacher of the Year. They were both honored. Our thanks to HEB Central Market for giving them a $5,000 check and also sponsoring the dinner for all of our finalists, and that was a great event. Two quick announcements. On February the 1st, we'll be having our inaugural State of the District at the Omni. We are very pleased to announce you that it is sold out ahead of time and we can't take any more. So but we're very proud that it's been a great response from the community for that event. And then the very next day is the Great STEM Expo on February the 2nd at the K. Beatty Hutchison Center. Once again, our students performing at the STEM Expo from all over town. So that concludes my brief report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, trustees, the next item on the agenda are the trustee committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? I don't believe we do. Okay, next item on the agenda are the trustee reports for districts. Wait. Oh. So the next item are the district trustee reports, and we'll start on my right, your left, with Trustee Pinkerton.
Thank you. A number of things to report today. I want to first congratulate the girls swim team at W.H. Adamson High School for their win at the district UIL competition. The team is now headed to regionals along with several other DISD teams. And then kudos to Sunset High School senior Magali Ramundo and Adamson's Jalen Freeman for being named winners of the Nancy Lieberman Charity's $10,000 college scholarships. The students were among 3 other district athletes to receive this award, and much thanks to Ms. Lieberman for her generosity. I want to congratulate our Teacher of the Year finalists that were from District 7, so Marco Magoni, science teacher at Quintanilla Middle School, and Audrey Gagel, who teaches art and theater at Reagan STEAM Academy, were 2 of 10 finalists, and think about this, 10,000 teachers and you're in the top 10 is quite an accomplishment. So congratulations to them, and we're really excited to have you teaching in District 7. And then finally, I want to send out a plea for volunteers. Sunset Collegiate Academy is looking for 60 mentors to work with those students, and I hope that everyone will consider this. Those are some really neat kids over there that could use mentoring and guidance as they launch themselves into successful careers. So if you're interested, contact Sunset High School. You can ask for the Collegiate Academy department there. You could always email me at audreypinkerton@dallasisd.org. Thank you.
Trustee Blackburn. We want to congratulate our student from William Brown Miller Elementary School, 4th grader Josiah King, for winning the 27th annual Dallas Martin Luther King Junior Oratory Competition. And in case you guys have not figured out, second place was in District 5, third place was in District 5, and if we had a fourth place, the young lady from Wilma Hutchins Elementary School would have been in the top running too. So I know you guys are jealous about that, but that's okay too. We want to thank all the students from District 5 that did very well in the competition. We got 4 of the 8 finalists that were on stage. Also, kudos to District 5's very own Olympic gold medalist Roy Robot Martin from Roosevelt for being chosen as a member of the second class of inductees into the National High School Track and Field Hall of Fame. He's a 1985 graduate of Roosevelt, my alma mater. Robot is considered one of the greatest high school sprinters in American history. And finally, it's my pleasure to recognize Judge Barefoot Sanders Law Magnet for being nominated as a National 2019 Blue Ribbon School in the category of exemplary high-performing schools. We want to thank all those students and accolades and look forward to many more coming from District 5. Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Foreman?
If I don't steal them and put them in District 6. Good evening. I'd like to celebrate Chantrell Lovett, who is a teacher at Humphrey Lee Elementary School, for being one of the 2018-2019 Teacher of the Year finalists. Ms. Lovett is just one of the highly effective teachers who go above and beyond daily in her classroom, and I thank her for representing District 6 so well. I also want to congratulate the Carter swim team, which made it to won the district finals and is going to regional, so we're excited about that. Go Carter Cowboys. And tonight, also, I'd like to thank the administration for working with us. Also, besides Mark Twain becoming a tag magnet, Carpenter Elementary will become a dual language school. Also, two-way dual language. Also, I want to remind parents, students, and community members that the application deadline for our specialty schools like Magnets, Montessori's, Collegiate Academies, and more is January the 31st. I am proud to say that District 6 is home to some of the premier schools and programs in the district, and I encourage you to consider them and apply. You can learn more by actually sending an email to the district, dallasisd.org/yourchoices, or to my email address, joyceforeman@dallasisd.org. Thank you.
Trustee Mitchell.
Thank you. I'll give the District 3 report. I'm proud to say that Mrs. Morrissey, the elementary school teacher of the year at Alex Sanger Elementary, Alex Sanger Preparatory, she was honored on Tuesday at a special surprise meeting in the auditorium, and she gave a great speech on determination, grit, high expectations, showing vulnerability, and connecting with students. I posted that video on Facebook, and I was amazed at how many people from the neighborhood really took the time to write really kind notes about how great our teachers are, and in particular Mrs. Morrissey. Kudos to Jackalow Senior Elementary, one of the 26 Texas schools nominated for the 2019 National Blue Ribbon School Award. And I'd also like to make a comment about Tony Robertson Jr., who is a fifth grade student at Clara Oliver Elementary in Dr. Blackburn's district. He spoke at the Dallas Bar Association on Monday and gave a tremendous speech. A friend of mine, Bill Holston, was being honored for this as this year's Martin Luther King Jr. Award recipient, and he had to follow Tony Robertson. He was quite distressed at the high bar that Tory set. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Henry?
Good evening. So there's a lot of good news coming out of District 9. I want to issue a special shout out to star student Sky Turner of Charles Rice Learning Center, who recently appeared on the Steve Harvey Show with her idol Patti LaBelle. Sky is developing quite a reputation as a singer. In fact, it was her performance of Patti LaBelle's songs that landed her a star turn on the Steve Harvey Show. So we didn't get an oratory winner, but we did get someone meet their hero, Trustee Blackburn. And I now know with the oratory competition, also deserving of a shout out are the two outstanding young orators from District 9 who were finalists in the annual MLK Junior Oratory Competition. Kimberly Rout of J.P. Starks and Kyla Hudson of Charles Rice both did a stellar job of sharing their original essays at last week's MLK Oratory Showcase. I want to say kudos to a few campuses. One is Miss Carter, who's janitor at Edna Row. Edna Row's had a lot of construction over the summer through the year, and Miss Carter has to be on the campus whenever the construction happens. So when they're really working to get the school open in the summer, she was there on the weekends, Sundays, you name it. One of the quotes when I was talking to her, she said, even at lunch, she said, I didn't want to go to lunch because I didn't want the kids to get cold. And she said that because she's responsible for, I guess there's a boiler that I need to get aware of that has to be addressed or it won't heat the building. So I just want to give kudos to her and her high level of commitment. I hope the administration finds a way to acknowledge folks like that are doing things to keep our schools open at the same time and running efficiently. Kudos to MLK Junior Learning Center and Principal Stewart, whose students outperformed their peers in 15 of the 21 categories on the fall assessment of course performance. The MLK staff is also on board with the school's leadership as reflected in the scores above 90% on all 6 of the categories of the district's annual climate survey. They call it the Kingdom. If you've ever been in MLK this year, it is truly the Kingdom. It's a wonderful place to walk into. Everyone is extremely happy. It's just a great place to be. And its final note from the good news category, Skyline Principal Dr. Lombardi reports that 96% of her seniors have taken the Dallas County Promise Pledge to pursue a college scholarship to a DCCC community college. I encourage all students to take the pledge, apply for a community college, and complete the FAFSA financial aid form to be ready to attend college next fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Solis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 3 District 8 schools received a share of $252,000 donated by Sam's Club to support science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics education in Dallas ISD. Solar Preparatory School for girls and Solar Preparatory School for boys each received $60,000 from Sam's. The Innovation, Design, Entrepreneurship Academy High School received $100,000. The campuses already embrace the science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics mindset, and I cannot wait to see how the donations will enhance those efforts. It's also extremely encouraging to see this investment in Dallas ISD schools, specifically these 3 schools. There was a point in time where there was fear about what these schools might be because we were calling them choice schools. People were concerned. People thought there was a takeover. That was not the case. And in fact, we now are proving the promise of public education because we took the time to be bold and to innovate. Not only now have we proven the promise of public education to a degree through these innovative concepts, but we are seeing investment in our schools. The remaining $32,000 went to the district's STEM department. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Trustee Resendez.
Thank you, President Flores. In very exciting news, H. Grady Spruce High School's 2019 senior class and the school's Alumni Association have come together to establish the H. Grady Spruce High School Hall of Fame to honor those Spruce graduates who have made an impact in the community. Congratulations to the school for the talented and gifted in Pleasant Grove for holding a successful book fair with Scholastic that allowed parents in the community to purchase books for the school online and in person. Thanks to the generosity of everyone involved, the school has thousands of dollars in new books for students to read. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I first want to echo the superintendent by congratulating the Dallas ISD Secondary Teacher of the Year, Nadira Shakir from J.L. Long Middle School. Ms. Shakir teaches 7th grade pre-AP mathematics. She's been at J.L. Long for 5 years and hopefully many more to come. I also want to congratulate Sherry Kirby from Dandy Rogers, who was an elementary school finalist. So very proud to have two finalists, 2 out of the 10 finalists from District 2. Also, lots of big sporting accolades at Woodrow this month. The Woodrow girls swim team placed first and the boys placed second in the district, so congrats to the swimmers. Congrats also to the Woodrow Lady Wildcat wrestling team, which dominated the Bryan Adams quad tournament, Dan, by going 3-0 against BA, South Oak Cliff, and Sunset. Good job, ladies. On January 20th, Woodrow Wilson student Kendall Loper was on Channel 8 with Dale Hansen as the GMC Buick Scholar Athlete of the Week. And also on January 5th, several players on Woodrow's Wildcat football team won football all-district awards. In fact, they're too numerous to name. Also, congrats to the North Dallas women's wrestling team, which came in 3rd overall in the city, even though they only had 4 wrestlers at the Dallas ISD All-City Tournament. Congrats to the Bulldogs and their coaches. Also want to give a shout out to Woodrow senior Sophia Rogers, who earned a spot in the All-State Choir. More than 18,000 students across Texas registered for the TMAEA All-State process this year. And 5 rounds later, with only 3% of participants remaining, Sophia will represent the Woodrow Choir program proudly as part of the 2019 All-State Treble Choir and Concert on February 16th in San Antonio. So good luck to her. Also, congrats to the Woodrow's all-female robotic team, which won the Motivate Award at the North Texas First Tech Challenge tournament in Wiley. Woodrow has the largest engineering enrollment in a Texas comprehensive high school. So amazing work, ladies. And lastly, want to congratulate the Woodrow Wilson Dance Company that presented the long-awaited Nutcracker short and sweet performance in December. The show was a huge success. So shout out to all those schools, and that concludes the District 2 report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. I have 2 quick things. One, I want to congratulate Walnut Hill Elementary School for being nominated for a 2019 National Blue Ribbon Award. Walnut Hill could be the first Dallas ISD neighborhood elementary school to earn 2 blue ribbons as an exemplary high-performing school. The campus earned its first blue ribbon in 1999. Congratulations for such a great accomplishment, and thank you to all the staff for their hard work and dedication. Also, on behalf of the entire board, I want to thank you, the administrators, teachers, parents, and community for their kind notes, messages, and words of appreciation during Board Recognition Month. Students have posted marquee messages. Parents and community have called us, and constituents have reached out in multiple ways to thank us trustees for serving as your representatives. I'm sure I speak for the full board in saying thanks to the entire community for entrusting us with the care and education of our most precious resource, the children of Dallas ISD. With that, we will move on to item 6 on the agenda, consider and take possible action to approve the minutes submitted for approval. These include audit committee meeting December 7, 2018, called board meeting December 13, 2018, public hearing December 13, 2018, board meeting December 13, 2018, and governance compliance ad hoc committee meeting December 17, 2018. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Michke, second by Solis. If there are no changes to the minutes, please cast your vote.
I vote yes.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall.
Trustee Henry?
Trustee Henry? You need to vote. Your vote, doing it.
The motion passes 8 voting yes.
Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda are the statutory items which may appropriately come before the attention of the board. 7.01, consider and take possible action to adopt the resolution ordering a general election to be held May 4th, 2019 for the purpose of electing 3 members to the Board of Trustees of the Dallas Independent School Districts in Districts 4, 5, and 7. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Mitchke, second by Trustee Solis. Trustees, any discussion? If not, please cast your vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall.
Okay. The motion passes 8-0.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is conduct the board's constraint self-evaluation in accordance with the TA Lone Star Governance Implementation Integrity Instrument. Dr. Lear, will you please lead us through board's constraint self-evaluation?
Sure. We have 2 items under statutory. The first is simply your monthly board self-evaluation of your constraint. And January's constraint is the board, either collectively or through the actions of individual trustees, shall not assume a supervisory role with staff and students. So if you can mark either complied or did not comply, sign, and Dina will come by and collect those from each trustee. The next item is our quarter self-evaluation, and I'll just lead the board through the points that we believe that we've accumulated. If we look at Vision 1, we are at 12 points, so we have increased because we've adopted AE and we have our goals. And if I go to Vision 2, we're also at 12 points. We've increased in that area. Vision 3, we're at 9 points. Vision 4, we are still at 4. The next 3 areas are accountability 1, accountability 2, and structure. We're at 0. And then we go to advocacy. We have 1 point, and unity we have 10, which totals 48 points. At this time, I just need the board president, the full board, to agree to those points, and we just need a signature from the board president.
Okay. So need a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Oh, so we need motions?
Okay.
Well, the conduct the board self-restraint, that's just what we do every month. But then we need a motion to approve the board self-evaluation implementation integrity instrument. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mitchke, second by Solis. And we have to, are we set up to vote on this? That we agree with Dr. Lear on our points?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes, we have to vote on it. Okay, here it is. Thank you. So trustees, if there are no discussion, please cast your vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall.
Trustee Foreman? Okay. The motion passes 7 voting yes and 1 abstaining.
Okay, thank you, trustees. The next action item is, oh, I see that was, we already did that one. Okay, so that's the statutory item. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have consent agenda items 8.01 through 8.35 as amended. However, there have been changes to the items that were pulled for a separate vote. So the only items remaining pulled for a separate vote are 8.14, 8.21, 8.26, 8.33, and 8.34. Thank you to the trustees that had pulled those and put them back on the agenda. Items 8.01 and 8.05 have been pulled from the agenda altogether. So we are voting on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion by Mitchke, second by Trustee Henry. There is no discussion on the consent agenda. Please cast your votes.
Yes.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall.
Yes. Okay. You gonna vote? It's not.
It's not coming up.
Okay. Let's see.
Just call for a voice vote.
Yes. I vote yes.
Okay.
I vote yes.
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 Okay. Okay. One second, close. Yes, no, not present. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. The motion passes 8-0.
Okay, trustees, thank you very much. We have adopted the consent agenda, so now we will move to the items pulled for a separate vote.